Welcome into another edition of the Inside Carolina Postgame. I am Tommy Ashley. That is Dewey Burke. We're sponsored by Johnny T-Shirt and Congruity. Dewey Burke, the live chat is blowing up already. At the end of the day, there are no pictures on the scorecard. But I tell you what a game. I'm not quite sure what I just watched. So I'll let you try to explain to me what I just watched. Carolina wins 102-96 against Boston College.
Glad we won. Obviously, they made some good defensive plays down the stretch there and guarded maybe a little bit better in overtime. I thought our defense as a whole was abysmal. I mean, as bad as it's ever been. No reason to sugarcoat it. For them to shoot the way they did from the perimeter and get as many buckets at the rim as they did. You know, I thought Jalen was good offensively, but was just horrible defensively. Unfortunately, their bigs ate him alive. But we found a way to win, and you do have to win ugly sometimes, and made some timely buckets. Trimble's buckets late were huge. We can get into it guy by guy. Elliot Cadeau's continued carelessness is, I don't understand it. It's unacceptable. But hey, they found a way. BC obviously had the game of their season, the way they shot it, and were feeling themselves. But you're not going to beat many people guarding like that.
Yeah, Boston College, I mean, quite frankly, played their ass off. And if Brown doesn't foul out, that game may have a difference. Hate to see Jalen Washington go down late. Non-contact knee injury, it appeared. I'm not a doctor. I don't speculate, but that never is a good thing. So hopefully he, after playing one of his better games offensively, like you talked about, but Dewey defending in the post, Carolina wasn't helping a lot, and it just kind of let Boston College go to work. Both big men for Boston College, really. I mean, Venning and Hastings had their way there at times. This defensive issue, I mean, this is an issue, and it has been for a long time. Is there something systematic that we're just not seeing it? Because it cannot, or is it, be such an effort, dialed in, focus on the details thing as it appears? I mean, it is brutal, absolutely brutal watching them play defense.
Yep, it is. From a systematic perspective, I hate and have always hated the switching everything. Hubert's his own guy. That's his, and the staff's, current belief in how you guard. But Coach Williams, I can hear him in my head saying switching everything is a lazy way out. That was his perspective. Again, different coach, but I ascribe to that. I think your general mentality on the defensive end is in a better place if you have to fight over everything and get through things versus, I'll just switch. I'll just switch. I'll just switch. It creates much less movement, less attentiveness, I think, versus, guarding the way we were coached to guard, which is you fight over everything. Switching is an absolute last resort. So from a system perspective, that is something that I don't agree with, but that's how we have guarded for 4 years now, at least guard to guard. In the post, it was just bully ball to me, right? I mean, he tried Withers, he tried Claude, he tried all four of them. Didn't try James Brown. I know there's people calling for him, and maybe we'll see that next game. But those guys just got overpowered and didn't dig in. And as good as, like we said, as good as Jalen was offensively, his individual plus minus had to be way, way in the red individually. Now, I don't mean just for the game. I mean, how many points he scored versus how many points he gave up one-on-one. He had to have given up more than he scored. So obviously hated for him to get hurt, but defensively, they just ain't good enough.
Yeah, I mean, Boston College Donald Hand Jr., I was having flashbacks to Donald Hand Sr. And Curtis Staples going ham for Virginia back in the day, and then Donald Hand Jr. goes for 26 on 5 of 8 threes in 42 minutes. And like you said, teams are going to play well. They're going to have the games of their lives, but Carolina, a 19.5-point favorite last time I saw it, ekes out the 6-point overtime win against Boston College in the Smith Center. Dewey, let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned Cadeau, and I'm looking at the stats: 4 assists, 4 turnovers. Um, I want to say he doesn't get any foul calls, but I also want to say that's probably a result of some of the antics, if you want to call it that. But
It
but
definitely
your
is.
take on his play, how much is it trying to do too much? How much is it carelessness? And how much is it that Hubert Davis and his coaching staff should be able to put an end to? I mean, I see a lot of stuff getting allowed to happen over and over, and it's not just Elliott; it's a lot of them. But
Yeah, look, I think, to make a football analogy, I think Elliott doesn't, to me, have the ability to like read. Are they playing cover zero, cover two, cover three? Like I'm just gonna do what I'm doing. I'm gonna throw the ball around. I'm gonna put it in jeopardy, and when it works, it looks great, and he looks like a gifted passer, and he makes these plays that remind you of Kendall and Coda, and these just beautifully designed passes. But then there's no governor. Like he just keeps throwing it in there whether it's open or not, or over penetrating, and a couple of those missed field goals really were turnovers. So I think he had more like 5 or 6 turnovers. There was one late in regulation when he over penetrated and just lost the ball, no pass possession, and I just want to throw stuff when he does stuff like that. You've got a couple talented scorers around you. Ian went on a great run. It's like, can we force the ball to Ian a couple times? Like, if anybody's going to take a bad one, like, how about have your best, most gifted scorer take a bad one? Or even, also move the ball around. If RJ takes a contested three, he's going to make a couple of them. But like a no pass possession, Cadeau, and people on the chat think I'm being too hard on him, but I'm not. That's the expectation. Like at this program, when we hand you the ball, the expectation is you need to be the true quarterback. You need to be getting everyone involved. You need to read the defense. You need to read the room on who's playing well on your own team and get that person the ball. And I struggle so much with as you say, with the antics and the carelessness. But that being said, he made a couple big buckets at the rim, and at times, guarded effectively, and was a part of getting that stop, to ultimately force overtime. But man, it's just, oh man, for his ranking, for his pedigree, for the fact that he's by all reports spending a lot of time with Marcus Page, like we talked about before, Marcus Page, he just played, man. Blank face, went out and just balled. Like, Elliott, just go play, man. Stop with all the stuff.
yeah, I mean, and he, to your point, I like the governor reference. And for folks, that's not a government governor. That's the put the brakes on sometimes. I think some of the things he does are just eye-poppingly, ridiculously good. If he can eliminate all of that, then you go from being a 1-to-1, like somebody in the chat says, 1-to-1 assist turnover ratio to 3 and 4-to-1, and it really helps the team. Looking at Seth Trimble, a lot of people are in the chat saying Seth Trimble's picked it up.
Played great.
I thought the defense, especially. I mean, the fact that Boston College could not get a shot, I'm not sure what they were trying to do, and give Hubert credit for putting Drake Powell on the ball in those multiple situations. But just talk about the defense when it mattered. I mean, it matters for 40, and it matters for 45 minutes in an overtime game. But it seemed like Carolina, for whatever reason, was able to lock in at that point, ended up winning them the game. I think it was led by Seth and even Drake Powell.
And 12 rebounds for Seth too. I mean, he was very active and using his athleticism, and thankfully, because he was committed on both ends, probably most of anyone. But yeah, look, it was a weird couple possessions for Boston College, right? They're up 4 with 28 seconds left. I mean, I wonder what the percentage chance of winning was for us at that point. It had to be in the 2 to 3% range, if that. But we go down, we get a bucket, and get them pinned in the corner, get the 5-second call. Seth makes a tough shot. And then it is nice when you have fouls to give in those down the stretch situations, right? Because you can be ultra, ultra aggressive. You're not worried about sending to the free throw line. So we were fortunate that we had fouls to give. And we know with Drake's length, he's a problem. And I actually thought we ran a really nice play for that last shot for RJ.
That was the old Bryce Drew
Valpo. I was going to say, it's
Valparaiso.
a version of the old Valpo play, just a little bit different because it was it was side out and that kind of thing. But he got a good look. So that was drawn up nicely. But look, the story of the game is to allow an opponent who's 1-7 in the conference and just got blown out by UVA to come in your gym and shoot the ball like that and get every look and everything they want at the rim. It's just not good enough, period.
Boston College, I believe, averaged 69 points a game coming into this one, scored 96 in overtime. Somebody in the chat was asking for some stats. Let's look at them. Carolina was 18 for 29 in layups. Boston College was 18 for 23 in layups. Boston College point per possession was 1.33, Carolina 1.437. Both teams shot the ball well. Boston College 55, Carolina 56%.
With 60% from three for them.
And then 14 for 24 for Boston College from three. So they missed a couple late there. They were, 12 for 20 at one point that Jaminski kept pointing out.
Yeah.
But yeah, Carolina's fortunate to win, but ultimately you just got to figure out how to win these type games. Carolina did. Give them credit. Anything else before I ask you about the next couple of weeks, Dewey? I want to talk about what's ahead and why this game was so important, having lost two and getting this win, because you're staring at a stretch, if you go back to the Stanford game, a stretch of 8 games that were going to define the season, and Carolina was potentially, without this one, looking at possibly going over in it. But anything left in this game that you saw that we need to talk about or haven't talked about?
Yeah, look, I think if you didn't watch the game and if you just pulled up the box score and said, oh, wow, that was probably closer than I thought, or maybe you didn't know that BC wasn't very good, you look at the stat sheet and you say 5 guys in double figures. Jackson 19, Trimble 18, RJ 22, and Washington 18. You say, wow, Jay Wash probably had the best game of his career. Trimble 18 and 12. Gosh, it looks like the guy statistically played really well on the offensive end. But that's why the stats, on an individual basis don't tell the story, because without watching it, you truly couldn't imagine how much we struggled on the defensive end. So, maybe on the offensive end, this gives, collectively the group confidence that there are multiple people that can put the ball in the basket. But you're just not going to beat anybody guarding like that. You just won't. You never will. We have our limitations from a size perspective, from a bulk perspective. But when a team that's 1-7 comes into your gym and is, down the stretch is shooting 60% from three and whatever you just said, 80-something, 78% from two at the rim. I mean, just every shot they wanted. I mean, I refer to it a lot on our group thread. One of the guys said, BC return, scores return, every return, single return possession. It's like, yeah, that's what it felt like.
It did. Boston College, eventually Carolina gets the better of them in overtime. Felt like Boston College did everything they could to get themselves to the end and then could not capitalize. How many times have we seen that in sports? How many times have we seen Carolina do that this season, have an opportunity late? Carolina handled it. Talking to Dewey Burke, shout out Johnny T-shirt, shout out to Congruity, shout out to the almost 600 people here in the live chat. Forgot to post it on the message board. Ben Sherman put it up there for me, helped out. It's been a hectic day in the house. But Dewey, this stretch coming up, you've got Pitt, Duke, Pitt, Clemson, Syracuse. Certainly a season defined. If the season's not defined already on January 25th, which some will say that it is, certainly a season-defining stretch coming up for Carolina. Nothing will be easy, especially when you say Pitt's probably the easiest one of that stretch.
Yeah.
How that stretch will play out. Your thoughts on this team going forward?
Yeah. Is Clemson a quad one? I don't.
Who knows at the moment?
Yeah. Maybe we assume they are. So potentially 4 straight quad one games. I think based on who we are today, if you go 2-2, you're probably thrilled. 3-1 is absolutely fantastic, and somehow 4-0 means we flipped the script, and this team is playing differently than what we watched today. I mean, that's as honest as I can be. Going 1-3 would be underwhelming unless that one is Duke, and 0-4 that would be the nail in the coffin, right? So I think it's pretty straightforward. but a couple of these games are on the road, or 3 of them are on the road. Yeah, we got our hands full, and potentially without Washington.
Yeah, somebody, Melinda Dolphin, shout out, she's a regular, says Washington says he's okay.
Okay.
Evidently from the post game. So sure hope so, because Carolina's going to face some bigs. I mean, if Boston College bigs had their way, the teams that are coming up are certainly wanting to take advantage of that as well. Dewey, I'm going to get us out of here. 15, 16 minutes in. Shout out to everybody that has played. Somebody said RJ looked good. RJ hit some shots. This team has the ability to score with anybody in the country offensively. And that is, I've said all along, it's not about the offensive end. It's all about the defensive end. And we've seen it again in this game. Luckily, Carolina gets the win. Pitt's next. It'll be interesting to follow. Stay tuned to Inside Carolina for all the coverage. Stay tuned to Johnny T-Shirt and Congruity for your sponsorships. Dewey, it's always a pleasure, my man.
Thank you.